Yeah, hello. What do you got to lose? Right? It's a safe bet.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, if you're wrong, so what? But on the other hand,
Movie time? Might as well.
I was in
Does anyone need
Honolulu,
note
there's a
papers?
100-year-old
I have it.
Buddhist
It's
monk,
like the book to write with
and the
their
man
artwork.
there was 101. He didn't know much English. He would just say, one God, Buddha, Krishna, Allah, one God. Same. He had one tooth. So happy. It's unchanged. If you ever go to Salinas, there's a 100-year-old Buddhist temple there right in the middle of Crackville. Across the street, it's all blue tarps. And the inside has been unchanged for 100 years. The same altar, the same pews, the same drawing.
Here's one for you.
It's just beautiful. In the middle of
If
just...
anybody needs scrap paper,
There's a Chinese
scrap
closed
paper.
down restaurant with a neon sign. There's a word. It's got a Chinese guy with buck teeth and it says top secret in it. It's that old. But it's all tenants. Blue tarps. And it's the uniform. Homeless problem.
Okay, are you all ready?
I know.
Should we get started? All right, thank you. So welcome to Human Design Catalyst number 14. New faces today. I love it. I love having this every week. So today the theme is partnership analysis in particular. And I'm hoping to teach you all how to perform your own partnership analysis. Now I understand if you're new to human design, it might be a little overwhelming, some of the terminology used and so on. At the same time, particularly for projectors, I always tell them to start with partnership analysis right off the bat, right away. The generators are really here to learn about themselves, to learn what they like and dislike, to learn about their own makeup, how they can be true to themselves, how they can find their own satisfaction. Projectors are here for other people. So from the very, very beginning, yeah, please, yeah, grab. And if anybody needs any snacks, beers, yeah, pen and paper, anything at all. So from the very beginning, projectors are here to focus on the other. They really are. So I always have projectors start immediately. It's like my homework for somebody getting new to human design. If you're a generator, you just learn about yourself. You practice, making decisions according to your sacral center, your If you're a projector, go home and run the chart so everybody you know. I mean, that can be useful for me. Well, I don't tell you to do anything, ever. You're a manifester. I'm never going to tell you what to do. Manifestors are a very rare type. They used to be at the top of the hierarchy in the sense that at the time of ancient Egypt, the manifestors were like the pharaohs. Now, the projectors have replaced them as the guides and the coordinators of humanity. And so the manifestors, you kind of got a free pass. I mean, there's not really much for you to do anymore. I mean, you're kind of put out to pasture, so just enjoy the pasture.
Am I a manifestor?
No.
Were there more manifestors in the time of the...
I don't think so. I think if anything, there were, well, I guess maybe marginally more because you can, some kind souls online have done the research from the 1600s to the present of just by purely crunching the math, what percentages, because these change over time due to major planet, outer planet, transits, and so on. And actually, manifestors are on the decrease, so I guess the technical answer is yes, but I don't think it was by a lot. Maybe 1%. So, okay, so we're talking about partnership. So, in a way, it's funny to talk about partnership in the context of human design because, you can say anything you want. No, I'm a very open. Yeah.
What is the 4 symbols? What is the area that it's called?
The area of the symbols?
You said this is called the...
Human design system?
Yes.
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 Yeah. Oh, and then there's the types within it. We have manifestors.
Human design system
Yes.
and manifestor
Generators,
generators.
projectors,
Projectors.
and then also
Okay.
reflector, which is
Okay.
a very rare type, 1% or less is a
Yes.
reflector.
Yeah. Okay.
People
Oh, okay.
debate whether the manifesting generator is a subtype of generator. I kind of include them within it, but they have elements of the manifestor, but ultimately they still have the generator aura and the generator rules. The manifesting generator does have what a manifestor has, which is the connection of a motor directly to the throat, which allows them to radically change the course of a sequence of events. Basically, as generators, we can't really do much to radically change the course of a sequence of events. We respond, we can dance with the events, we can immerse ourselves into them, we can enter into that flow, but we're inherently yin. The manifestor can show up, I mean, literally, C could say, hey, you know what? We're going to do something different tonight. We're all going to go inside. And every one of us would go inside. We have no choice because C would be able to direct us all. Or, you know, hey, everybody, let's do this now. And then suddenly we're all doing it. We don't really know why. And it's weird how that works. I've seen manifestors do it. Just as a slight story of how a manifestor did that, I had a whole thing prepared. It was a scavenger hunt, and right before we started, this was at a party, the manifestor said, actually, we're all going to go do fire dancing outside. And everybody forgot about the scavenger hunt and went outside and did fire dancing. But if it was the other way around, and the manifestor was doing the scavenger hunt, and I was like, hey, everybody, fire dancing outside, fire dancing, we're doing fire, you know, it doesn't work. I'm just like an echo just fading into nothingness. Because I'm a generator, I can't get people's attention. I can't walk up and be like, hey, everybody, pay attention. I'm really glad you're all paying attention now. I mean, it's wonderful. It's great. It's the only time of the week I get paid attention to. Welcome. Hi. We're just starting, so perfect timing. Help yourself to anything. We have a little mezcal. Oh.
I took a picture of you guys and sent it to my
Well, I would love some wine in a moment.
human
You want me to put it in the fridge and you can...
Yeah, we'll do an intermission.
Okay.
All right, so I didn't put it.
Okay.
That's pretty.
Yeah, so as a generator, I just wait because I can't interrupt people. It doesn't work. But anyway, I want to focus on partnership. It's just a funny thing because all of human design is about being yourself, what it really is to be yourself. So it's a deeply individual system. It's a system that's all about fulfilling your potential to live your life as who you really are. So partnership is such an afterthought to that. It's so funny. People come to me and they say, well, what are the best matches in human design? Or how do I make it work in this relationship? Or this or this or this. It's really not about that. Human design is about being yourself. But it does have a few things to say about partnership. So the first thing is that all partnership is a limitation. And people don't really want to hear this because there's this fantasy that you get to just be all of yourself in a relationship. It's not true. In any relationship between two people, only a part of you is going to be activated with that person. And there's going to be all this dormant stuff that you will never get to share with them. You'll never get to activate that. You'll never get to have that with them. And then somebody else, you have a totally different set of things. And that's the first thing to realize is that it's really, in any partnership, you're in this limitation. And a huge part of the human design philosophy about relationships is that you surrender to that limitation. The absolute worst thing anyone can do is to try to change the other person and reject what they are. Oh, I wish my partner was different. I wish I could do this with them. I wish every time I did that, my partner didn't go over there. God, I wish I could have this kind of conversation with them. I wish I could do that kind of activity with them. I wish they would be like this. That is hell. That is hell. That is the worst thing. You know, your dynamic with another person is your dynamic with them. It's a limitation. It's a small subset of who you are. You're always going to be the bigger circle. You know, that's the thing to realize is that it actually takes the pressure off. You're no longer trying to fix the relationship or make it better or change it or improve it. You just accept it. This is what it is. It's always going to be just this thing, and that's okay. And a big part of that is that allows you to give respect, to show respect. And so that's the same thing. People say, well, what does human design have to say about relationships? Well, it teaches you what respect means to different people, because it's not the same thing. Respect for a projector is not the same as respect for a manifestor. It's not the same as respect for a generator. So if you're a projector, for instance, to show a projector respect, you invite them. You simply invite them. You say, wow, I'm kind of worried about this, and I'm really curious what you have to say about it. And I just want to know, and you're always welcome to tell me. You create a hospitable, welcoming environment where they are welcome to tell you whatever they want. You never put them on the spot. You never ask them yes or no questions. I know a generator who is in a long-term relationship with a projector, and he would complain and say, I just ask her, I say, do you want to do it or not? That's hell. That is hell for the projector, and it's super disrespectful for the projector because it's trying to pin them down and to get them to answer this yes or no question to kind of corner them. And that's not what it works. For a projector, you show them respect by inviting them and welcoming them to share their experience or what they're seeing or what they want to do. That's all it is. Now, for a generator, it's the opposite. A generator, to show them respect, you actually ask them yes or no questions. We love yes or no questions. It's like micro-consent. It's like, hey, I'm going to go get lunch with my friends. Do you want to come with? And make it okay for the generator to be like, not my thing. And if the generator starts to feel a guilt trip about, well, I guess I'll go with you, sure, because, if I don't go, then you'll be talking about me, and I'm not, a good boyfriend or whatever, that's really disrespectful to a generator, because then that's all the conditioning. And I'll talk in a moment about how we condition each other, because that's a big part of it. A big part of human design is remaining true to yourself and being who you are, and it's really hard to do in a relationship, because a relationship is where you get the deepest conditioning possible. Your loved one is sick in the hospital and you're a generator, and you get some opportunity. Your favorite artist is in town, and it's like, hey, do you want to go to lunch with your favorite artist? And you're like, oh, hell yeah. And then, but do you want to go be with your loved one in the hospital? Well, I guess I should. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay. You know what I mean? It's so hard, that conditioning. We're so conditioned to feel so guilty if we don't live up to a standard of what a good person is. That's a big part of it. So in respect for a manifester, you neither welcome them nor ask them yes or no questions. You simply inform them. Manifestors like to be informed. So I try to do that. I mean, I was a little obvious today with C, but I try to just say, hey, just so you know, here's the situation. Here's what's going on. And then I wait for C to be like, oh, I could help out with that. I could do that. Instead of saying, hey, C, are you available at 4 o'clock today to do this thing for me? I don't do that. I try to just lay it out there. And that way it gives C a really easy out. If C doesn't respond, I'm just like, okay, whatever. I informed them, and that's it. So again, just to recap, generators like yes or no questions. Projectors like to be invited. Manifestors like to be informed. Manifesting generators like to be informed and asked, And then reflectors, they just really like to have enough time. For a reflector, I would say something like, hey, I'm going to ask you to make a decision, and it's about this particular subject, and I'm gonna ask you in about a month. So, give them a lot of time to prepare, because the reflector has no definition, and so they need a lot of time to work through stuff.
Well, what happens if you do a generator and another generator, or a projector and another projector?
Yeah, I've seen. Okay, let's do both of those cases. So I was seeing someone some years ago who was a generator. It was funny because neither of us can really initiate. Neither of us can say, hey, I know what we should do. Let's do this. Doesn't work. It's not being ourselves, because we're generators. We're here to respond. The generator is responding, right? But it actually it's, people always say consent is sexy. Nowhere is it sexier than between two generators. I literally, at a certain point, we were seeing each other, we kissed, and I said, do you want to be my girlfriend? She said, no. And I said, can I ask you again in a couple weeks? She said, that'd be okay. And it's great. It's the generator thing. We could ask each other yes or no questions. And then she could ask me too, is there going to be a problem if I'm not your girlfriend? Whatever. We get to respond. We get to ask each other these really nice little micro consent questions and just kind of test. Now, if that generator has emotional definition, they're going to need more time to get emotional clarity. This was a case where neither of us had emotional definition, so it was very in the moment. Now, for two projectors, that's a really funny one. there's no good or bad pairings, but I really like the same type pairings. I think that they're really special. And I knew two projectors, and it was so interesting. So projectors have this ability to lock in on one person, and they're just like only you and them are the only people that exist in the world. It's a really special thing. Projectors can just lock in with you, and you're just so connected to them, and they're seeing your deepest core of your truth, and So two projectors, I asked her what it was like dating this projector, and she said, well, it's kind of like we're both snake charmers, and we're both the snakes, and we're not sure which is which, and we're both trying to hypnotize each other, and we're both, deeply locked in. And to other people, it looks like they're just ignoring everyone else. It just looks like they're just totally locked in. But really about projectors, the right thing for a projector is to invite each other. Just say, well, you're welcome to tell me anything. You're welcome to, and, there's some coordinates within that, but essentially the projector, it's just never, I think people get really impatient, and they want the projector to tell them yes or no, or they want the generator to go along with it, and they're tired of this, or they want the emotional person to get clarity already. I can't stand this uncertainty. Human design teaches you to just be patient and just allow things to evolve on their own. So we've gone over that all relationships are a limitation, that you have to surrender to that limitation. The next part of it then is that allows you to show respect. It's really hard to respect somebody if you're trying to force them to be something else. If you're trying to force your projector to be a generator and you're trying to ask them yes or no questions and corner them, they don't have a sacral center that's going to have that same level of resonant truth that a generator does. So it's just, don't expect somebody to be what they're not, right? You're trying to, So the first thing is you surrender to just accepting them exactly how they are, and you accept it as a limitation. Then you're able to show respect. Then you start to notice the conditioning. So we're all familiar with this term from Pavlov's dogs, where they ring the bell and the dogs salivate because they're conditioned. Well, that's how it works, and what's interesting is the most basic level of partnership analysis is to just look at what centers you have and what centers your partner has. So this is center conditioning. So you got to see the charts earlier, how there's these different centers. Well, each center it's kind of like a chakra center. It's a certain energy that you can learn to recognize and feel in yourself. Now, I have undefined solar plexus. The solar plexus is the emotional center. If I'm with somebody who has a defined solar plexus, I'm going to immediately feel their emotional wave, where they are in their emotional wave. And that can actually condition me in a way. It can condition me to, when they're really excited, to become more impulsive, where I not normally be that impulsive. And if they're really low on the wave, I might become more pessimistic about things. And I don't mean to make this abstract. I can literally feel it. My dad has an emotional definition, and he's an artist. And I remember I saw him one day, just some months ago, and he had lost his art studio. And he was so sad about it, but he didn't say anything. Hey, how you doing, Dad? I'm fine. And it just feels like me with my undefined emotional center. I feel this choking pressure and this pit in my stomach. Y'all can't hide it. If you have emotional definition, you cannot hide the energy waves you're putting out. I'm feeling this pit in the stomach. And finally, after about an hour of just misery, he said, well, I lost my studio. I had to move out. Couldn't afford it. And finally, I'm like, oh, God, I felt great. What a relief, it's all out in the open now, and all the emotion is it's like burst the bubble. But that's the thing to realize is, if the other person has a defined center that you don't have, you're going to be feeling a certain pressure from them. It's not bad. It's something you can learn a lot about. It's really not a bad thing. There's one other example I have really quick, is the ego. So for those of you who were here for the Not Self talk 2 weeks ago, it was we were talking a lot about the ego, and how if you have an undefined ego, it basically means that you're going to have some issues around self-esteem, and it's really important in order for you to be healthy with an undefined ego not to make a lot of promises or to try to exert a lot of willpower, because that's actually going to damage your self-esteem further. If you have undefined ego, you're going around going, well, I promise myself that I'm going to do this, and I promise I'm going to exercise this much, and I promise I'm going to quit smoking and all this stuff, and then you break the promise and you feel crappy. What's wrong with me? I'm so terrible. Why did I do this? Now, I know you both have defined ego. You have undefined ego. You have defined ego. Yeah, we have a nice mix here, actually. Danny has defined ego. You don't. Wait, you have the G center to the. No, you don't have to find ego. You don't have to find ego.
What's
So-
that mean?
So if you have a defined ego, so we actually have it's only 30% of people have it. We actually have a higher than normal amount. We have Danny, Steven, Todd, Mary, and Tom all have defined ego. So what you would realize is that you basically are not as susceptible as the rest of us to. I mean, I don't want to diminish this because I tell people who have a defined ego, hey, you have a healthy sense of self, and they say, no, I feel really insecure about things. Well, everybody feels insecure. Everybody has these issues. But the real difference is that if you have a defined ego, you really are able to know what you have the willpower for or not. You know that you have the willpower. Now, with an undefined ego, we might think we have the willpower for something because we're all boosted up because of that conditioning. We're around someone who has a defined ego. It's like filling up our camel hump. You go to a therapist who has a defined ego and they say, you can do it. You can quit smoking and you have it and just do it. You have the willpower. And you're like, yeah, I have the willpower. And then you leave and the conditioning wears off and you're back to having your inconsistent willpower. And all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. And you go, God, what's wrong with me? Why can't I exert this willpower? Well, that's the way that conditioning works. I did a couples analysis for a couple at an astrology conference. She had defined ego. He didn't. Her biggest complaint was that he wouldn't quit smoking, and he kept promising he would. And she said, I'm ready to leave him if he doesn't quit smoking. He has promised me 4 times that he would quit, and he is a liar because he has not quit. And he just felt terrible. He felt terrible. And, he's a generator. I'm like, do you want to quit smoking? He's like, yeah, of course I do. And it's like, no, that's not a sacral response. He's not like, yeah, I want to quit. Like, he's not into it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, smoking might be terrible for you. It might be the worst thing in the world, but you have to really want to quit to do it. And the person with a defined ego, might condition you into feeling like you have the willpower to do it when you really don't. So, and this happens for all the centers. Someone has a defined head, the other doesn't. The person with a defined head is going to be dictating what the other thinks about. It's as simple as that. I hang out with my good friend Daniel. He has a defined ajna with every gate activated. Whenever I hang out with him, I think about the stuff that he's thinking about because I have an open ajna, so I have no say in it. It's kind of like, it's like a game of Go Fish, and like the person who has it kind of sets the stage, if you will. Okay, but I want to move on. And we'll have a break, by the way, in between this. And if anyone has questions, please jump in. But the last thing I want to say about conditioning, we don't realize sometimes how the ones that are the very closest to us, that we love the most, that we're the most closest, actually condition us the strongest. And it's kind of amazing. So I was going to tell just a short story, and then we can do a little break. I think we guys do a break after this. So the messenger of the human design system, Ra, is what he went by. He was born Robert, but he shortened it to Ra, kind of almost playfully. He was asked his name one day, and he just said Ra, and then it stuck. He liked, not because he thought he was a sun god from ancient Egypt, but it just kind of was a fun, playful thing. So anyway, Ra had kids, and he would pick up his kid from school every day, and every day they'd be going home from school, and there was this huge cow they would see that Ra had nicknamed Elvis, and he would always shout out the window, "Hey, Elvis!" And he just thought it was great. Ra just really got a kick out of this, right?
Hey.
How's it going?
It's good. How are you doing?
Listen,
And so, we'll have a seat. We're just about to have our intermission, so this is perfect timing. So, anthill.
that's an anthill. That's a red anthill. Please don't sit there.
You're okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
Just scoot over. Yeah, you're good. You're good. So anyway, so every day, and just to speak a little bit about Ra. I won't tell his whole life story or anything, but he was an individual, and I was actually telling you earlier, Stephen, about being an individual means you're kind of outside of the norm. The individuals are the freaks and the geniuses. They put it that way. They don't always have the easiest time communicating with the collective or being part of the collective or going along with trends. They kind of stick to themselves. You have the individual format energy, Vaughn. Of course you're a total outsider, freak genius.
Yeah, fuck everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so Ra's like this, and so he's going home from school. He's taking his son home from school every day, and he shouts out the window at this big cow, and he just goes, "Hey, Elvis!" And he gets a real kick out of it, and laughs to himself. Well, one day he picks up his son, and his son has friends, and his son whispers really seriously. He says, "Dad, don't embarrass me today. Do not shout at the cow. And sure enough, they go by the cow, and Ma rolls down the window, "Hey, Elvis!" And, and embarrasses his son. And he said, basically what he said about this, I'm so mad at him, but he said, you can't let people condition you. You got to be yourself. The very closest person to you who you love the most is going to be the one who tries to get you to betray yourself and pretend to be somebody else. And just don't do it. You just got to be yourself. So, okay, let's take a 15-minute break, and then I'll finish it up. We're about halfway through. Unless there's any questions. Are you all good? Okay, sweet. Let's take a 15-minute break. Thank you.